Well, good afternoon, everyone. We'll start proceedings in a couple of short moments. Just before we do go on, we'll just do a quick sound check. Can you just please let us know that you can hear both myself and Aaron, if you could just say a few words.
I can say a few words. Welcome, everyone.
And if you could just put a note in the chat, that would be fantastic.
Thanks for joining us, Adrian. I can see that.
Perfect.
Michelle, yep, excellent. Looks like we're all good, mate.
Thank you. So we'll start in a couple of moments. We're waiting for a few people to join in, and we'll get things underway very, very soon. Well, good afternoon and welcome everyone to today's session on key steps to building compliant SMSF documents. My name is Daniel Tramontana and I will be hosting today's session, and I have the pleasure this morning or this afternoon to introduce you to Aaron Dunn, who'll be running the session. Aaron, welcome on board.
Thanks, mate. Great to be on a webinar with you again and going to be face-to-face shortly, which is even more exciting around the country.
Yes, we're very much looking forward to it. I actually haven't seen you in person for almost 2 years.
Yeah, is that a good or a bad thing?
Well, you've preserved pretty well, so
Yeah.
I'm okay with that. I think you should be quite proud of the way you've preserved yourself.
Yeah,
too.
thank you. Much appreciated.
But look, just a little bit about Aaron, and I know that many of you will know Aaron. We've had a long association with Aaron, and I remember dealing with Aaron from late 90s, and Aaron has, gone ahead and developed now or stepped into his own business and his own arena, and really has made a name for himself as a quality person in the SMSF space who countless people depend on and rely on every day to make sure that their SMSF functions of their business are run properly. And one of the things that I know that Aaron loves and is central to his business is the whole area of SMSF documents. And we know that in recent times, there's been a lot of change in this space, and there's been quite a few takeovers and purchases of document providers and lots of movement in the space. And I believe that this has caused, and Aaron will confirm this, has caused a great deal of, in many cases, has caused some uncertainty and instability. And documents is something that we simply cannot get wrong. They can make such a difference when it comes to issues when they do come up within your SMSFs. And it's really important that whatever you're generating and whatever you're pushing out to your clients is of the best quality, and that it protects both you and your client. And I know that Aaron's been doing this for quite some time, and I know that the quality of the documents that he generates are of top quality. They can be depended on, they can be relied upon, and I know that they'll provide you and your trustees and the clients that you service with the necessary protections and compliance requirements to ensure that they're best positioned for whatever takes place in the future. So today's session is going to be a really great session where you'll get to learn more about documents, how to build proper documents. You're going to get a look into the platform, and most importantly, I hope that you walk away with some really good information to be able to further assist you in servicing your clients. Now, just a quick point before I pass it over to Aaron. Today's webinar has all been put on as part of the BGL RegTech or lead up to BGL RegTech. Aaron was an MC for our RegTech events. He's also been a great supporter and sponsor of our BGL RegTech events. They do start on the 1st of March in Sydney, then Brisbane the 2nd of March, Adelaide the 9th of March, and then in Melbourne on the 16th of March. And attendance numbers are looking really good. It's also great to know that a lot of the restrictions and things that have been imposed are looking like being dropped from the 1st of March. So it appears that we may be able to get back to a really strong, normal event. And we look forward to being able to rub shoulders with you again, to be with you in person again, and really do what we love doing, and that is connecting with many of our great peers within the industry. So I will put the link to RegTech in the chat. You can go to that if you'd like to come along. But right now I have the honor and the privilege of introducing you or handing you over to Aaron, who will take on this session. And as part of the presentation, if you have any questions, please feel free to ask them, or by putting them in the Q&A in the chat, and I will then guide or navigate those questions through to Aaron at the right time, or else we'll wait for them and go through them at the end. So Aaron, I'll pass over to you. Thank you. Thank you for everything you bring to us. And
Pleasure,
I'm
mate.
very much looking forward to what you have for us today.
Yep, perfect. Excellent. Thank you. And just to reiterate what Daniel said there, personally, I am also very much looking forward to getting back out on the road. It's these sort of events that give you the ideas that you can be bringing back into your practice, whether it's from the team at BGL with their fantastic Simple Fund 360 and CAS products, or from partners like us at Smarter SMSF. You just don't get the opportunity to have those conversations with those that build the product, those that can support you in account management and so forth. And today is to really help you understand this a little bit more in the context of what we do with BGL at Smarter SMSF. And as Daniel mentioned, this is a relationship that goes back for a long period of time, and it is a very trusted relationship that we have. So the idea here today is to take you through some of the technical, but also some of the practical things that you need to consider when you put together your compliance requirements for your SMSFs. So I want to touch on at the very beginning a bit about the challenges, the state of play, where I see documents in the SMSF space. Now I want to take you through what I see as those key steps, and that's where we'll dip into some of those practical elements here and help you identify why something like Smarter SMSF as a subscription package, or just with their documents ordinarily, is a suitable fit in many instances. I'm then going to jump into the platform, just show you a little bit around and how it works, in particular taking you through from Simple Fund 360, and then finish off with a bit of an assessment and why others put their trust in what we do, not only in the documentation, but obviously in the accredited education space as well, which is really where our business started as the SMSF Academy around a decade or so ago. So why is compliance more important than ever before? And the reality is that we are still going through all of these key challenges of keeping up to date. Interestingly, for those of you that may have joined me on my top 5 SMSF strategies webinar recently, we had over 140, 150 survey participants, and we asked again what that number one challenge was. And this keeping up to date is absolutely critical to the ongoing success in your business. And this means that from a compliance point of view, we need to ensure that keeping up to date is there, because it then impacts management of risk. And Daniel spoke about this earlier, ensuring that you understand what that potential risk may be, and then how you best manage that risk. And that may be for the client from the purposes of going through an audit each and every year, but also managing the practice risk in the way in which you may be constructing documents, providing advice, whatever the case may be. Efficiency then comes into play. And these are all elements that actually we spoke about in our Future of SMSF reports historically, but how important are those tasks and how can they be done in a much faster way without actually compromising quality? And we certainly know that technology here has become the enabler within the business to drive those better outcomes for you. So compliance here is actually not declining through the impacts of technology. We're seeing more compliance, but we're needing to embrace technology further to ensure that we can get the stuff done with the limited time that many of us continue to be restricted by on a day-to-day basis. And then it comes down to reliability. So that's about choosing the right partners in your business model, strengthen reputation, but enable you to drive greater outcomes, not only for your clients, but also internally for your business, whether it's by growing, whether it's increase of profitability and so forth as well. So when we think about the state of play, the reality is that SMSFs have had a historical gap in the provision of SMSF compliance-based documents. Now, we've continued to see the industry grow. We know yesterday the ATO published their annual statistical summary, so that 2019-2020 data. And we can see that the number of SMSFs are now going through a stage of further growth, and we can see that data definitely going through our side. But we're seeing much younger entrants and the type of investment certainly changing if we think about cryptos and NFTs and all that sort of stuff. And we have to constantly deal with the ongoing restrictions and the impacts of, say, COVID around the requirements for in-house asset rules and dealing with other aspects of rent relief and the like. Now, it's this ongoing change, therefore, that continues to impact the sector, which means not only are we training these issues, but we're having conversations with people about how do we actually put this stuff in place. And that is where we came to as a business to say we feel like we can assist people as specialist practitioners to support them with the compliance documents that they need to successfully do what you need to do. And this has grown not only in the eyes of the regulator and auditors, in addition ultimately to what the clients are demanding to, again, stay compliant. And a really good example that we've seen there has been around investment strategies over the last few years and this increased obligation to ensure that we actually have genuine compliance with the relevant operating standard. And the other thing that we've also seen is we have seen people rely upon our software providers. So BGL is a good example here to say, well, we expect you to be able to provide all that documentation that we need through Simple Fund 360. And this is one of the reasons why Ron and Daniel and Matt all decided to come to Smarter SMSF and say to us, guys, we know what we're good at and we know what you're good at. How can we actually put these two things together? And that's what I'll show you today to understand how you can actually put in place this documentation and linking it back to the most important parts of your fund's SMSF documentation, i.e. the trustee. And therefore, that all feeds back into the proper management of those legal and compliance risks. So interestingly, we ran a webinar last year on investment strategies, and you can see here just why this is becoming an increasing issue for firms, because about 42% of firms were actually still creating their own templates within here. So when I talk about documents, I'm talking about this in a very broad context. Yes, we're talking about legal documents, new funds, change of trustees, deed upgrades, LRBAs, but I'm also talking about pension documents, starting a pension, payment of a reversionary pension, commutations, and then compliance documents, investment strategies, rollovers for SuperStream. These are all parts of the document landscape that we do have lawyers that have to prepare some, or legal providers, versus some that may be provided internally. And how you connect the dots between all those is ultimately going to determine the success and the risk management that you actually can ensure you meet inside that firm. So without further ado, let's jump into then what I see as these important steps in building out compliant SMSF documents. So to me, it's 4 key areas. So you're looking at understanding the risk areas. So where are the areas of document risk that may occur with my SMSF clients? Then we go, well, based upon an acknowledgement of these key areas with the type of clients that we have, it might be by age, it might be by some other metric that you have, investments and the like. We then need to say, well, what are the documents that we need? So what's the cost benefit trade-off inside our firm to be able to get this work done? And I'm going to show you shortly an example that takes you through a number of discussions that we've had with firms in particular around investment strategies. Not only then do you need to understand maybe in a silo around that specific cost benefit trade-off, you then need to analyze and understand the impact across the practice. And again, this will come into play when you're doing things like trust deed updates as well. And a number of other documents around pensions is a good example too. And once you've identified all that, it's then that you say, well, actually, we need to go and analyze and understand who's who in the market and what do they actually do and how does that fit in with what we need. So they're the 4 steps that I'm going to cover. So there are quite a number of risk areas when we think about the self-managed super fund landscape. And I'm not going to go through and talk to each one of these. You'll get access to these slides after today's session, but some of these are very common. If you're listening to me doing training on a regular basis, or you are listening and going to other events, you will hear things around the estate planning documentation, about the validity of death benefit nominations, and in particular, following procedures within the fund's trust deed. And we've had numerous cases over time that support this. Now, really important decision is shortly going to be made within the High Court that again may have a profound impact on the SMSF sector around the ability to actually have in place non-lapsing binding death benefit nominations. So the Commissioner in their guidance back in 2008 in an SMSF ruling, 2008-3, said, well, we look to the fund's trust deed and the procedural aspects of that. And that is being challenged in this case, having gone through courts in Western Australia. It was successfully on appeal to the High Court. And we're now going to have a Commonwealth decision based upon the validity of non-lapsing binding death benefit nominations in SMSFs. So if that is successful on the appeal and we ultimately see that being removed, again, we're going to see changes required around documentation we have in place and most likely SMSF trust deeds as well. And these are the sort of things with that specialization that we are constantly looking at and making sure that our members continue to comply with these reforms. We also talk about reversionary pensions in this area, conflict with estate planning and so forth. And then it comes down to the trail of documents. So do we have our deeds in order? Are they up to date? We know that there are further changes coming on the 1st of July 2022 that are going to impact downsizes, work tests, first home saver scheme. We are seeing changes on the ECPI front as well. So some of these, subject to how prescriptive the deed is, again, may need changes to occur. And this applies not only to the deed, we may want to look at things in the Constitution as well. A good example of that recently, we have incorporated a number of areas into the Constitution that deal specifically with the new director ID requirements as well. So let's keep moving. The other thing here is around pension documents. And I talk here on a number of levels. And I just wanted to note for you that we are actually running a webinar next Friday, so Friday week, on this very topic. So what we do see in this space quite regularly is a disconnect between the documentation and what the fund's governing rules require. And in many instances, it may be produced from SMSF software, or it may just be a set of own templates that we don't actually see that connection occurring, that then will potentially create some issues in the future around any conflict. We've seen examples quite regularly of where documentation simply can't be found, or it didn't exist in the first place, down to simple things like whether product disclosure statements should actually be issued around the pension documentation as well. So all of these things are critical in getting your documentation in order. And the other one there, if I just touch on, is around investment strategies. So again, a huge shift over the last couple of years since the ATO wrote to a small cluster of LRBAs in property that were fairly heavily leveraged with single asset concentration. This has now grown into something much bigger, where the large majority of SMSFs have gone through a far improved process of their investment strategies, and making sure now this next wave of investment strategy requirements that auditors are really also putting on to practitioners and the trustees is around the concepts of regular review and what that means as well. And I'll touch on both of those when I jump online, because they have been two of the most popular documents around investment strategies that we have seen over the past 12 months or so. So let's jump in and talk now a bit about this second area of the cost benefit trade-off, because this is a thing in particular where we've got businesses that have a specialization or a specialist division within their firm. There is some expectation on having the skill set internally inside your business. So actually, why don't we do all this ourselves? And what we've found as we've worked through this analysis with a number of clients and talking to people is really to drill down and understand how much time goes into this and how much capacity you may rebuild back into your business off the back of understanding what this trade-off actually looks like. So we see 5 key areas in this cost-benefit trade-off that you need to understand and be able to measure. So knowledge and research, so time taken to understand the law along with any other impacts that might influence the outcomes here. So the relationship to the deed, ATO guidance, other rulings. And once you've got your head around that, and most of us need to have what I'd call base level understanding. But if you are potentially doing documentation, there is much more than base level understanding that might be required. You then go, okay, well, we need to move into what I'd refer to as template build. So how are we building a document that actually marries up to the deed and other documents that may be relevant or relative to what is being required here? Now, we may be able to enhance that by some form of scalability. So we may have a technology build or a build in some sort of process that allows us to automate or optimize the preparation time. In many instances, it's going to be a Word template or something. So that scalability may not currently be there within the organization. We then move to actually the time taken to produce it. And then we look at the concept of, well, what happens if the rules change and how much time do we need to do to ensure ongoing compliance? And again, the investment strategy review is a good example there. So I want to share with you this, and this is actually off a real case study where we've had conversations with firms with around 100 funds. And they came to us and said, well, we need to improve, or we haven't got investment strategies within our firm. The auditors are going to be requesting it. Let's now work out how we can do this, because we actually don't have the time, effort, and energy inside our practice to be able to make this happen. So I've got James, partner, $400 charge rate, senior staff might be working on it as well. So what we need to start to understand is, well, how much time is it going to take internally within our organization to get this going? And what we're able to look at is, so well, look, a senior staff member is going to potentially spend a whole day going through understanding laws, regulations, association to deed, et cetera, et cetera. The partner will come in, obviously have a look at that themselves. And we're, in this instance, what I should have said up front is we're not using wage costs. We're looking at charge rate here because we're trying to identify what the opportunity cost is of doing this yourself versus actually utilizing someone like Smarter SMSF to facilitate this for you. So you can see there, we've got an estimate on the research, we've got an estimate on the build time to build the documents and templates that we need inside our organization. We then go, okay, well, we've got 100 funds. It's going to take, say, an hour. We'll get a graduate or a junior accountant or someone maybe to do that. There might be a little bit of review and stuff in it. We'll call it $150 on average. And then we have, on an ongoing basis, we've got some review and maintenance that would need to occur. So quite quickly, we come up with about $30,000 of time, billable time, that it would take to undertake that task. So the accountants of all of us, we know numbers. We know that we've got a $300 break even that we would need to charge for that investment strategy to achieve that outcome. Now, what we've been able to demonstrate, which is why we've been so successful, I guess, in getting people to think about this and the importance of this, is not only could you look at this on a subscription basis, and you can see here, say, a Create 100 pack gives you the ability to get that done. We layer in there, of course, you'll spend some time looking at our documents, making sure they're the quality and outcomes that you need. But we're showing you here then is that the time that it will take to complete this task in the preparation as well is then going to be significantly reduced. And this is because you can tap into your BGL Simple Fund 360 data, CAS data if need be, to enable you to populate the information and then generate the documents that you require. Now, you could still do this more productively, even on a pay-as-you-go basis, but you're not going to get the 270% improvement when you compare apples with apples. So even if you do want to charge a $300 fee, you would get a significant uplift as a result of that, simply by tapping into that technology. So that is one item in isolation. So therefore, you actually have to multiply that out. And we spoke about those risk areas before and saying, well, what are the areas in our organization do we require ongoing maintenance of documents in the firm? How many of these templates then need to be managed each year? Are they actually aligned to the deed that we have in our firm? Do we actually have one deed, or do we have a multitude of deeds? And therefore, each and every other document that we do, we're going to have to come back to the specifics of that deed so that when we prepare documentation, we are not putting our client at risk in the context of anything that may be contested in the future, which naturally has a flow-on effect to business risk. Understanding how much time is being spent on that task, capacity is a significant issue in the industry at the moment. So does this free up capacity to increase the level of work, or even give additional tasks that may need to be done? And then finally, I guess, all that resource planning there as well. So one of the really interesting ones at the moment, I had a chat with Matt Crofts only in the past sort of fortnight or probably 3 weeks, is we started looking at building out some new rollover documents. Now, it sounds very simple in its acceptance of how this might work, but this is, in my time alone, this has now become a 20+ hour build to deal with the machinations of rolling in and rolling out. We're looking at not only compliance with the deed, we're looking at compliance for superstream, because auditors are now going to want to ensure that the superstream requirements have been met in Division 6. Otherwise, we actually create a compliance breach, which could lead to, of course, administrative penalties. But we've got partial rollouts, we've got rollouts to SMSFs versus rollouts to APRA funds. So we have FVS versus SVS requirements, verification services I'm talking about there. So these are all elements that you go, wow, do I actually have the time to be on top of all this stuff? Or are we better using an expert that we know, trust, and will keep us up to date on all this? So interestingly, those new SMSF rollover in and out templates, we are pushing through with the next Simple Fund 360 update, which you'll see in the first week of March as we are around for RegTech as well. So the last one then really just comes back to depth of knowledge. And this here is, I guess we see it as multi-leveled. So are you using providers that may be the cheapest, but will only really reproduce how the law's defined? Maybe very prescriptive because that's how it's written. They don't understand how outcomes could or should actually apply. And it's only once you start to drill down and understand those and reasons why we are a depth provider. So we are experts in SMSF. We're not experts in trusts and companies and a whole range of other things. But what we do and we do differently, and we look at this depth issue, is that we can see not only the issue, but we can see the opportunity, and then we can actually layer around that any moats that may be required as well. So with our deed, we have things like special rules. We have concepts of paramount documents where you want a particular document to rank higher than another document. We will be showing at the BGL RegTech events our new auto deed service. We also have with things like investment strategies, asset concentration minutes that deal with the fact that we have in shares, property, cryptocurrency, cash, and whatever, reasons and rationale as to why they actually are satisfied with that level of asset concentration. And pensions, again, we not only deal with minimums and maximums and annual reviews, but we're looking at, well, what happens if you take the above the minimum? What happens if you've lost your pension documents? What happens in the event of a death where the pension reverts to another individual? These are the sort of things that we grow out because we understand the rules and we understand them really well. So a couple of things I just want to note. Some of you may have signed up already via Simple Fund 360 to do this. Some of you may not. I just want to give you a couple of really important tips when you get started. So what happens with the integration I'm about to show you shortly is you have a direct link into our platform from within Simple Fund 360 in the document space. We are the only one that has that access. So it does pass your username and email address from BGL to Smarter SMSF upon registration to ensure that you will get things like tax invoices and so forth. We do want you to ensure that you go through a double opt-in process. It's just a validation requirement to ensure that you get the information that you are signed up to from us and you get it in a timely manner. So sometimes if you don't go through that process, you may not get the tax invoice if you don't actually give us more information rather than your name that comes through and the email address. Then a tax invoice is going to be issued, but it's not going to be in the correct name. So we do need to capture a little bit more if you're going to then be ordering via us. Now, one of the other things that we have via our subscription is this concept of what we call primary and secondary users, so parent and child. So what this does, exactly the same framework as BGL is set up on. You have someone in your organization that is subscribed to BGL's products. And then what you do is you are giving staff access to utilize that subscription. And because we have subscriptions based upon a number of document counter, you will, as the primary user, be able to grant access to other BGL users to be able to order utilizing that subscription. So we have this functionality up. The user interface, again, we will be showing for the first time people at this year's RegTech events as well. So it links you all back by what is called the short firm code inside Simple Fund 360. David from our team usually gets in contact with people that sign up for the first time and want to understand how all that stuff works. So let's get stuck into the live demo. And I want to show you just a few things here about how this all works. So the first thing I want to show you, we obviously have our own platform here where you can order documents, log in and so forth. So you still do have access to the Simple Fund 360 integration and CAS 360 integration here, and you can order documents from the complete suite. So what I should say, and you will see this shortly, is that if there is not a document currently available through the Simple Fund 360 platform, you can come back here. You can utilize it on here for the BGL pricing that we have exclusively for BGL clients, and you can also use it via your subscription. So you can see a counter here that is counting those orders, and that applies on the saved orders and completed orders. But what I'm going to do is go into Simple Fund 360, and you can see under the Connect button here, you have the ability to order documents or order documents. And what that is going to do is it is going to integrate the Smarter SMSF platform and BGL. So here, once it is authorized, you will then be able to order from any of the documents here using the fund information, trustee information, member information to enable that to occur. So I'm going to only quickly show you how that data gets pulled down and how you can find all that. And then I'm just going to show you a couple of final little things so that you will get logged in and you'll see this main dashboard. You can go here and you can access our SMSF Foundations course, which takes you to the BGL site, which also is available within the BGL Learning channel. You can log support tickets and order. So here, when you create, and again, it doesn't matter whether it's an investment strategy or adding a member or something, it is simply a function of ordering now. And at the top of this next screen, you will have the ability to choose or find the fund that is going to populate this order form. And it is as simple as that. So it then, once that information has populated inside the form, it is then just a matter of going through and filling out any gaps that may be here that require you to manually answer. So one of the things here is you'll see if we've got an address, it's not recognizing the next address. So you may have an example in BGL here, and this is the reason why I took this one, is that we use an integration called Addressify that enables us to validate the address. So a very simple one here. Once you've got that address in there, all the addresses throughout, you can then use that drop menu to be able to do so. Okay, so in here, you've got your company, so it's populated all that, populated the address, populated the director details. Yes, they're a member of the fund. Yes, they're a member of the fund. You've got your chairman. So you can very quickly go through and complete this order form, add in the other details that you need. It enables you to then, so I've missed one there. Just needed a title. And then once you've actually completed this, it will then allow you to review and then submit the information. So is the member being added or removed? In this instance, we'll say added. Were they one of the ones on the previous screen, or is it someone else? If it's someone there, it'll then obviously populate that information. And then we can go through and review that and then ultimately submit the data. So it is, when I use the word instant, you will get an instant email to say that that order has been submitted. And once that order has been submitted, it may take anywhere between 1 minute to 5 minutes to generate that order based upon the complexity of the document template that is sitting behind here. So in a simple fund 360 scenario here where we're setting up a brand new fund, the other thing that I just did want to note here as part of this process is when you order a new fund, and you can go through, you can deal with QROPs and a whole range of things. When you have submitted an order here, we do have the ability with this integration to go and then pass that information and set up the fund back in Simple Fund 360. So you're not having to rekey the data under the establishment that you have just put here and ordered on this document platform, because we know that you are then going to be setting up this back inside Simple Fund 360. So we will do that process automatically for you. Again, passing over fund name, passing over trustee details, members, and so forth that we capture inside this form. And the final one here I just wanted to note as well is under the completed orders. If I'm just going to find a company quickly here. So where you have a company, if I just go down to here, you will have the ability to push that back to CAS 360, which again will automatically set up the company information there as well. And BGL shortly will be releasing the ability to order companies directly within CAS 360. So you will be able to also order companies that are using the Smarter SMSF Constitution directly from within CAS 360. But you've got the ability to use one way or the other. You've got that flexibility based upon how you might be connected to ASIC as a registered agent as well. So You do have on our platform the ability to access our knowledge base. So our knowledge base gives you the ability to find all of our sample documents here. So you can see things like our declaration of property, a market valuation minute, our pension commencements, our fund establishment documents. So you can go in, connect, and then you'll be able to go to the knowledge base and access all of that information. So whilst I flick back to our slides again, so I'm just going to go back there. All right. All right, so I guess why do people choose us? First and foremost, I guess we are recognised as experts in this field. So we are one of only half a dozen accredited educators with the SMSF Association. We've won awards in this space as accredited as SMSF technical experts in the education space. And when it comes to documents, it's quite interesting. We have a broad spectrum of product offerings, but when we drill down to it, we really see two types of firms. We see what we call high volume firms, and what they are looking for is what you do, Aaron, must be industry best practice. So we will spend a lot of time working through your documents and making sure they are of the highest quality in our industry, and we'll assess you against your peers. And once we're happy with that, what we want to ensure is that we just have a consistent and efficient experience each and every time. So we have people that put through hundreds of pension documents each and every year, and we'll never hear from them because they are satisfied with our pension documents. And then what they do is they just use that BGL integration, and they order and they order and they order, and the output comes and they are happy, and it's a fantastic experience for them because it's efficient and it's consistent for them in a high volume setting inside their firm, trying to get hundreds and potentially thousands of documents done each and every year. And on the flip side, we actually see general practitioners as well. So they might be on a much smaller package. Our packages start at Create 25, which I'll talk about shortly. But what the questions and challenges that we have is I just need to make sure that I'm doing this correctly. Okay. So I need the help. I need the trust that this document, Aaron, is this, or David or Joe or whatever it is in our firm, I've got this situation. What's the document that I need? And we can tick that box for them, knowing and giving them the confidence that when they go back to the client, what's being done will comply and we don't have any issues when it comes to audit. And then once that confidence builds, it's then the second phase is, well, how can we do this efficiently? And it's then really leveraging into the technology here to be able to do those, utilizing the Simple Fund 360 integration. Now, Daniel touched on at the very beginning, there's been a bit of fracture, I guess, in the industry, a bit of aggregation. And what we have seen is people coming to us recently, really questioning the quality of the documents, but also what I call the personalization and level of support. And that's something that we do really hold high, to a very high standard inside our organization. The ability to talk to you, the ability to get back to you. We do not only have telephone support naturally, but we have an inbuilt ticketing system so that we can track all tickets and measure those, of course, so we're coming back to you around that. And you can see some stats there, and obviously Kylie, who is a Simple Fund and CAS 360 user, just that level of support and testimonial there that's really validates what we do each and every day in our business. So options. So for you as a BGL client, sure, yes, you can order from any of our documents from within BGL, Simple Fund 360, or even via our platform. You get a discount potentially as high as up to 40% off certain documents. If you order on a pay-as-you-go basis, there is a credit card payment required prior to submission. You get the tax invoice that's sent out as part of the completed order, and you do get an email in respect to that order that's being completed, in addition to it being in your completed orders area. We do use Amazon AWS like BGL does. All of those documents are stored on S3 from our point, located in Sydney. Our subscriptions packages start from 25 documents, and they are over a 12-month subscription. As I mentioned earlier, you do get access not only to the documents via BGL, you also get access to the documents via our platform. If you do audit companies, there is a small admin fee for that direct through integration to complete that. But in essence, the subscription, that's the only additional fee you pay over and above your monthly or annual subscription. The primary account holder we spoke to gives you access to link other staff against that subscription counter. You'll get obviously renewals and notices around that sort of stuff. And you have the ability to make changes to the subscription. And what we do find is that some people are not sure what level. So dip your toe in the water, start. There is a very easy way to upgrade and make changes that you need along the way. And we have built a document calculator that is available to help you understand just how many documents you may need over a 12-month period, or you can get David from our organization here to actually have that conversation with you. So they're our subscription packages that we do have with BGL. You can see the yellow there. We kind of give a bit of a guide as to how many documents or how many funds that you have that may suit the type of subscription that you may actually need. And if you do have some of our higher products as it currently stands, you do get CPD training included. However, what we have made as part of RegTech is that if anyone does actually subscribe to one of these, you will actually get as a bonus our CPD package. Our smaller ones, you'll get our CPD quarterly, keeping you up to date on the technical issues that come along, or our Smarter 100 or higher is in essence our CPD regular there. So right through to the end of RegTech, we've got that offer available to you. So the other thing that I just wanted to touch on here is to just give you some context as to why a subscription may be a better option rather than pay as you go. So we see a lot of people say, I don't want a subscription. I'm more than happy we just disperse it to the client. So here's an example where we've got an organization that we did this analysis on for them. They started the process of PAYG. Yeah, I get it. Yeah, I get it. And then the penny dropped. So what we said, there's about 100 funds, and it estimated that they needed sort of circa 20 strategies, 20 deed upgrades. They're really ramping up some of the SMSF stuff with a bit of a specialized division and financial planning relationships, and about 20 documents, 20 pension documents. So there's about 75 docs in total. So if they're going to buy them on a pay-as-you-go basis via our platform, you're looking at an average cost of about $181. Now, on the flip side, if we looked at a Create 100 pack here, which is $450 a month, plus GST, or the $4,500 if you did it as an annual, we've significantly reduced our annual cost. So even if Jackie's firm doesn't actually utilize the full subscription, the break-even cost is actually going to be at as low as 26 documents. So now, by moving into subscription, there is a much larger amount of available documents that you'll get as a benefit. So this is significant when we think about a return on investment, and also noting that if she does utilize the full 100 in the end, we're actually tapping in on a further $4,500 to be accessed as well. So it can be very significant. And again, this is why I suggest going back to our document calculator that'll actually help you to understand that. Or as I mentioned, David, who is our sales and business development manager, has the ability to walk you through that and do some calculations and share that information with you. So I guess there's a few things that I want you to ask yourself as you contemplate potentially some change. You may have been a client of one of the firms that recently, document providers that has recently been gobbled up and are dissatisfied. You may be utilizing documents internally that you're spending a lot of time on and are needing to manage and maintain those on an ongoing basis. So are there current gaps within your existing documents that are being used? And how is this type of work being done inside your SMSF business? Are you relying internally on one or more persons to do that? Is it being consistently done across the business? Multiple partners, different ideas, another very common scenario that we see. And what level of team member is actually undertaking this work? So is it filtering top down from the partner doing that work or the senior managers and then putting it into the team? Or is it being done bottom up? And therefore we might not have the same level of expertise. So finding that mix can become very critical. And then it's a financial metric. So what time is it undertaking and what's the opportunity cost of getting that done? And how are we measuring that, not only in the creation of new documents that we need, but how we need to maintain that on an ongoing basis. And then saying, well, are we actually leveraging the existing technologies that we have, like Simple Fund 360, and how data rich it actually is with our client information to get this work done and done more efficiently. And ultimately, how it can be a far better profit center inside your business. So for us at Smarter SMSF, we do help firms successfully navigate through what is an ever increasing change in compliance. Compliance is not going away, but how you do it will become critical to your success into the future. So make sure you're leveraging that specialization to ensure that clients remain compliant. And as a practice, you can actually manage that risk as well. The products that we have put in place, when you combine what you can do with Simple Fund 360, is a massive enabler for you to drive efficiency inside your practice and really focus on the relationships that you do have with your clients. You'll have ready access to support, which ultimately gives you the confidence in what you need and when it can get done. And ultimately, as our products and services evolve, they will evolve and they continue to evolve so that you can rely upon our expertise in that area so that you can focus on what you do next. So by popular demand, it's been a little while since A, we've been on the road, but B, we actually have brought back our mouse pads as well with the super rates and thresholds. We sold out 500 of these with our members and a number of others just before Christmas. We have gone to print again, in essence, to get some for RegTech. So make sure you come and visit us at our stand in Melbourne, Adelaide, Brisbane, and Sydney. We've got some exciting new products that we'll be showing people there as well, including our automated deed service. We're building a white label portal solution for larger firms and various documents, like I said, that continue to evolve in the SMSF sector. Our roll-ins we spoke about, changes of trustees, and much, much more. So as I always say, in our view, there is a smarter way. Thanks for joining me today, and to Daniel as well. I'm happy to take any other questions that you may have as well. Cheers.
As always, Aaron, that was outstanding. And what I love the most is two things that I really love. I mean, apart from the quality products, the service you provide, I always love the passion that you have for this area and the SMSF space, and always wanting to make sure that you look out for the best interest of your clients and those that use your services. But there was one really important point that I know that really differentiates us at BGL from many others in the marketplace, and that is to do with service and accessibility. Yeah. And I know that in the past I've used your services, and I can attest to this. You're only ever a phone call away. Yep. And you're only ever, available to help me, and were able to just point me in the right direction very quickly, very promptly, and with a great deal of confidence. And this is something that people listening on today can take a lot of assurance in when it comes to working out whether or not you adopt the Smarter SMSF product suite and range of services. Like I said, they've got a great reputation. They're quality people and they care. And for me, that is a huge point of differentiation. So thank you, Aaron.
No worries, pleasure. Pleasure. No, thank you.
So look, if you've got any questions, we'll hang around for the next few minutes. We'd love to answer those. If not, a recording of the session will be made available to all participants. The special offers that Aaron went through will be made available also. They'll be sent through to you. By all means, we encourage you to take those up. Yep. So,
and Daniel, the slides of today's session will also be sent out as part of that follow-up. So if anyone would like a copy of those slides, if they want to talk to someone within the organisation around some of those challenges, certainly you'll get access to those. And again, we'd be more than happy to work through those too.
Yep, so you'll hear from us and get all that sent through to you. So on behalf of BGL, I'd just like to remind you once again, if you could get along to RegTech, we'd love to see you there. I sent the link in the chat before. register, come along. It'll be one of the first in live person events where we get together again. And on behalf of BGL, I'd just like to once again thank Aaron, and also thank each and every one of you that makes all these sessions really worthwhile. Your engagement and participation is much appreciated, because I know that you have to take time out of your day to get to these things. So thank you on behalf of all of us. And I know I can speak with such confidence on behalf of Aaron too.
Yep, absolutely.
So thank you, everyone. As I said, we'll be around for a few minutes, and just check your inboxes over the coming days for a link to the recording and the slides.
Yep.
Thank you.
Cheers.